Very good afternoon. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Delhi gears up for the G20 Summit. Full dress rehearsals continue. Fourth G20 Sherpa meeting begins in Haryana today. ISRO puts Chandrayaan-3 rover into sleep mode. Expected to wake up on September 22nd with the sunrise on moon. In sports, India wins men's hockey 5's Asia Cup 2023. PM Modi congratulates Team India, says grit and determination of our players continue to inspire the nation. Alright, let's first talk about the mega build-up to the G20 Summit in Delhi. Delhi gears up for the G20 Summit. Full dress rehearsals are being conducted ahead of the upcoming event. The authorities advise the public to stay updated on real-time traffic information through the G20 virtual help desk for the route suggestions when travelling to or from the airport, railway stations or bus terminals. And the summit, which runs from September 8th to 10th, may cause inconvenience to the residents in the Indian capital. Delhi Traffic Police has issued an advisory with route restrictions in several areas. Commuters have been advised to use the metro wherever possible.
Delhi is the second most populous city in the world, according to the latest data from United Nations. And it's one of the most traffic congested cities too, with 10-kilometer journey taking average time of 22 minutes. As the capital gears up to host one of the world's most high-profile events, the G20 Summit, security and traffic management are the top of the agenda for Delhi's police.
In detailed traffic advisory, we will be giving you information about the various types of modes of transport available. The main summit venue is in New Delhi. So there will be restrictions in the NDMC area, or we call the New Delhi Police District, which will be a controlled zone in which the authorized vehicles or the identified visitors will be allowed. But in the controlled zone, as well as the rest of the Delhi, metro services will be allowed throughout.
And they are now advising people what to expect. They have set up a virtual help desk to ensure smooth travelling during the summit. It will provide people with information about road closures, traffic flow and alternate routes. There will be no restrictions on travelling by metro except at the station next to G20 venue.
We are setting up ambulance control room, ambulance assistant control room. In field also we have a traffic motorcycle riders who can guide for any green corridor movement. And we also have the special deployment at 20 places so that they can help any emergency movement of any ambulances.
There will be no restrictions for medical staff or for the movement of ambulances and essential services like food and dairy products.
During G20 Leaders Summit, school, colleges, government and private institutions to remain shut from 8th to 10th September. And with the true spirit of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, or I shall say, the world is one family, India is all set to create a milestone under its G20 presidency, and New Delhi has geared up to welcome G20 delegates. Kriti Vadhera for DD India.
And the 4G20 Sherpa meeting is beginning in the northern Indian state of Haryana. The Sherpa meeting is the preliminary gathering of the government representatives before the main G20 summit. Apart from the member countries, Sherpas and other delegates from the invited nations will participate in the high-level meeting which runs until September the 7th. And one of India's priorities during its G20 presidency has been to support regions through climate finance to help them meet Go Greener. DD India's Jessica Taneja has the details.
In a poor village, untouched by electricity, miles away from the nearest town, children are learning, reading books under the glare of a lone street light. It was made possible because of this microgrid system. It helps provide clean, affordable and reliable electricity in remote areas where the main grid doesn't exist.
Approximately 100 houses and 40 to 50 shops can be powered by this. It makes houses and markets independent of main electricity grids.
The numbers tell a compelling story. The cost of solar energy plummeted by almost 80% in the last decade. It costs half the price of thermal energy. Offices in the national capital are also reaping the benefits of affordable and clean energy.
We use a 60 kilowatt system. We supply the saved electricity units back to the government. We save approximately $6,000 each month in electricity bills.
Although the country hopes to use 40% of its yearly energy from the sun, depending on it entirely for the long haul might run into some bumps.
We need to invest in the technology because we are totally dependent on the imported material. So we need to invest in the technology so that in the next 10 to 15 years, we can be self-sufficient.
For one village, it's a revolution that's come quickly. But this will be a generational shift from thermal power to solar, and that could be a long road ahead. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
And according to the United Nations, women and girls remain underrepresented in the digital sector worldwide, from coding and creating to accessing services. The gap limits job opportunities and the ability to improve their income. But in Venezuela, a unique project is helping to incorporate teenage girls into the world of science and technology. DD India's Mary Trinimena continues our G20 special coverage.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for 17-year-old Gabriela Lopez. Today, she's learning how to fly a drone, but she's also learning about coordination and critical thinking. Gabriela is part of the STEAM Lab, a hands-on learning project exclusively for Venezuelan girls.
We have had the opportunity to do many things I always wanted to do, like basic programming, working with drones. I have always been attracted to drones, but I never was able to have that access.
The goal of the STEAM Lab is to reduce the digital gender gap in a country where the majority of citizens do not have reliable internet access or basic services like electricity. In 2022, 3 Venezuelan entrepreneurs came up with the idea, focusing in 4 main areas: robotics, programming, technology, and biology.
These STEM fields related to science, technology, and engineering generally are dominated by men. In Latin America, only 30% of those jobs are held by women, so we want to increase that figure.
The program is privately funded. All participants were awarded scholarships. For 4 months, girls from middle to low-income neighborhoods from ages 12 to 17 years old received online and in-person training.
This year, 90 teenagers from different states across Venezuela are taking part in the project. Here, they are not only learning new skills, but also putting them into practice.
The young women are encouraged to unlock the mysteries of science, including activities to study plants, human biology, and microorganisms.
All the skills they are learning at the lab are essential for the decision-making process that can be applied in the future.
At the end of the program, students must present a final project focused on finding solutions to local problems, some real, some imagined. One project promotes the use of drones to carry medical supplies in remote and isolated areas. Another considers the development of a new vaccine to fight a future disease. But most importantly, the girls say they have learned about themselves.
We learn to be self-confident every time you take a decision. For example, with drones, you are flying them and you have to be sure that the drone will move to the right.
The lab is helping to shape the future generation of Venezuelan female innovators.
Sometimes we can feel capable of many things, but there are challenges we must face, and we say, yes, I feel capable and I will achieve it. Here, they have helped us to realize that everything is possible.
Next year, the STEM Lab hopes to extend its activities to impact a larger number of girls in Venezuela. In Caracas, Mari Trenimena, reporting for DD India.
And continuing our coverage of the G20 Summit and our in-depth look at some of the member nations, let's take a look at another one of the leaders who make up the G20 club. Charles Michel is the president of the European Council. He was born in Belgium and studied law at the University of Brussels. Michel was elected to Parliament and within a year named the Minister for Interior Affairs, then Minister for Development Cooperation. He was the spokesperson and then leader of the Reformist Movement Party and went on to become the Prime Minister. He became President of the European Council in 2019 and was re-elected to the post last year, that is in 2022. And continuing our special series of past G20 summits, 2010 was a watershed year with not one but two summits. Seoul was picked to host the second meeting. As DD India's Urvashi Kapoor reports, it was the first time an Asian country had played host to the world leaders.
The 2010 Seoul Summit was the fifth meeting of the G20 leaders to discuss the global financial system and the world economy. The theme of the summit was shared growth beyond crisis. This was the first time an Asian and a non-G7 host was convening the G20 meet, and it was the largest event in the history of Korea. In anticipation of widespread protests, South Korea had mobilized its largest security force ever. The Seoul Summit was a great success in terms of agenda, protocol and management. These were the major outcomes of the summit. A framework for a strong, sustainable and balanced growth was agreed upon. A decision to reform the International Monetary Fund and modernize the institution through greater representation of developing countries was taken. Consensus was also reached on making a set of guidelines on the currency conflict. The summit produced a concrete preventive system for future financial crisis by improving the existing flexible credit line. At the end of the Day 2 meet at Seoul, substantial progress was made on several issues, including IMF governance reforms and the rejection of current account and currency targets. Urvashi Kapoor, DD India.
And the Indian Space and Research Organization has informed that the Pragyan rover module of Chandrayaan 3 has been put on a sleep mode on Saturday. ISRO also informed on social media site X that the next sunrise is expected on September 22nd and hope for a successful awakening for another set of assignments. Alright, so ISRO has informed that Pragyan rover module of Chandrayaan 3 has been put on sleep mode and the next sunrise is expected on September 22nd and hope for a successful awakening for another set of assignments. Alright, we'll slip into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Tens of thousands of Israeli protesters are on the streets of Tel Aviv. 35 35th consecutive week of protest in Israel. Preparations are in full swing throughout Taiwan as Typhoon Haikui nears. And Gabon's new military leader pledges to return the country to democracy but refuses to provide a timeline for fresh elections.
Welcome to Kumarakol, Kerala, God's own country.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Tens of thousands of Israeli protesters took to the streets of Tel Aviv. Israelis have been protesting against Benjamin Netanyahu's planned judicial overhaul. And this is the 35th consecutive week when Israelis are again out on the streets. In August, Israeli Supreme Court began hearing the appeals linked to Netanyahu's judicial overhaul, which has moved country in an unprecedented domestic crisis. Now, Gabon's new military leader has pledged to return the country to democracy but has refused to provide a timeline for fresh elections. General Brice Oligui Nguema says the country's state institutions will be made more democratic and the suspension is only temporary. DD India's Isaac Lucando has more from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Coup leaders in Gabon say they want to avoid rushing into elections that repeat past mistakes. This as pressure mounts to revert back to civilian rule. Crowds celebrated in the capital Libreville as West and Central Africa witnessed its 8th coup in 3 years. Following the coup, military officers annulled the results of the country's latest presidential election. The political contest had seen ousted President Ali Bongo declared the winner, with the opposition calling it fraudulent. Mr. Bongo was subsequently placed under house arrest, ending his family's 55-year hold on power in the Central African state. Regional bloc, the Economic Community of Central African States, says it plans to meet as soon as possible to discuss the latest developments. It is calling on its partners led by the United Nations and the African Union to aid a rapid return to constitutional order. Isaac Lucando in Dar es Salaam, reporting for DD India.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa urged authorities to enforce regulations preventing city residents from unlawfully occupying apartment blocks. Ramaphosa's statement comes after a fire accident earlier this week in Johannesburg building that was occupied illegally. 76 people died in that fire, highlighting livelihood crisis in a city downed by widespread poverty and unemployment. The building, actually owned by municipal authorities, has been occupied by unknown groups and criminal gangs.
So there are laws that now need to be enforced, and we therefore need to deal with how those people who should not be living there are accommodated. Now, of course, a number of them do not even have permits to be in Johannesburg or in South Africa. So that's an added challenge that we have to deal with. But nonetheless, this has given us a wake-up call, and I have said that our cities and municipalities must now pay attention to how people live. We do encourage people to live in the inner city so that we densify the cities, but we need to do it in accordance with our laws.
North Korea conducted a simulated tactical nuclear attack drill with 2 long-range cruise missiles carrying mock nuclear warheads on Saturday. North Korea state media said the drill was carried out to warn enemies that the country is prepared in case of a nuclear war. This as Pyongyang again vowed to strengthen military deterrence against the United States and South Korea. In a separate report, the Korean Central News Agency has released photographs of North Korea leader Kim Jong-un inspecting shipbuilding and munitions factories. Meanwhile, the South Korean military has claimed that North Korea fired several cruise missiles into the Yellow Sea. The cruise missiles were fired in the early hours of Saturday, and an investigation into the launch is underway by South Korean and US intelligence authorities. Alright, preparations are in full swing throughout Taiwan as Typhoon Haikui nears. It is expected to make landfall late on Sunday afternoon and bring heavy rains and strong winds. Firefighters have cordoned off the risk areas and are urging people to stay away from the beaches. Taiwan's 2 main domestic airlines has cancelled all flights for Sunday. The military has mobilized soldiers and equipment to help with flood relief and evacuation efforts. Now, Typhoon Saola made landfalls on South China's Guangdong province twice on Saturday. The typhoon made its first landing on the southern coast of Guangdong's Zhuhai city and another on the Hailing Island in Guangdong's Yangjiang city. It later weakened to a tropical storm. Following the weakening of the typhoon, production and life in Guangdong have returned to normal, with passenger train services, flights and ferries resumed. The United States President Joe Biden traveled to Florida on Saturday to survey Hurricane Idalia relief efforts and comfort victims of the storm. Biden visited the city of Live Oak, a town that was hard hit by the storm, and met first responders and local officials there. The president also took stock of houses with fallen trees in them. Briefing the media, Biden pointed to this year's extreme weather events and disasters, stressing on the impact of climate crisis.
Nobody can deny the impact of climate crisis. Nobody intelligent can deny the impact of the climate crisis anymore. Just look around the nation and the world for that matter. Historic floods, intense droughts, extreme heat, deadly wildfires that have caused serious damage like we've never seen before. Just since being president, in 2.5 years, I've flown over more land burned to the ground as a consequence of wildfires than occupy the entire land of the state of Maryland. From down in New Mexico and Alabama all up into Montana and around. It's been devastating.
And the world's largest consumer electronics show has begun in Berlin. The trade fair sees 150,000 visitors from 130 different countries showcase the latest innovations in consumer technology. And as DD India correspondent Trent Murray reports, the European event is becoming a focal point for investors interested in the exponential growth of India's startup scene.
For almost 100 years, IFA Berlin has put the latest advancements in consumer electronics centre stage, bringing together the best and brightest in technology and innovation, and giving a platform for products that could just change the way we live and work.
You'll see, crazy, wacky things. You'll see hopefully 1 or 2 ideas that might change the world. We know that half of these startups are never going to make it, right? That's not the point. The point is to ensure that people see IFA as a place where you can come and see innovation.
And much of that innovation is increasingly coming from India. The event seeing a large contingent of companies from the subcontinent. Startups like Bangalore-based Ultrahuman, which is tapping into the lucrative multi-million-dollar wearable sector, attracting international interest and investment.
Our product is the Ultra Human Ring, so I'll just show that to you. It's 2.5 grams, super tiny. The idea was to have a wearable that's practically invisible, that you almost forget that you're wearing, but it's keeping track in the background and trying to understand how are you living your life. So now we ship to more than 50 countries across the world. So we started going offline into retail. So the first one was Selfridges in London, and then in Dubai we have Virgin Mega Stores in Dubai Mall and Mall of the Emirates. Dubai Mall gets 100 million visitors a year, so I think the message will get out.
India's economic growth, skilled workforce and pro-business policies means there is a strong sense of optimism for the future trajectory of the tech sector.
The talent pool, the confidence that I see in young Indian engineers, people in the tech space, I mean, I get inspired by it, right? So I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, because these are folks who, they don't think that they have any disadvantage. In fact, they think that, look, being in an ecosystem like a Bangalore or Gurgaon or being in Mumbai, they have huge advantages in terms of creating products for India, creating products for the world, whatever you wish. So I think there's just a lot of energy, there's a lot of vibrance.
With the G20 just days away, world leaders are expected to come together to try and find solutions to some of the world's most pressing problems across health and climate change, peace and security and economic policy. Both big companies here and startups say that technological solutions should be front and centre of those conversations taking place in New Delhi. One thought leader ready to offer her views ahead of the summit? Desdemona, the humanoid robot, who gave DD India her own take on the world's most populous nation.
Namaste. India is an amazing place with so much potential for economic growth. I'm excited to see what the future holds for India's economy.
And what about the question of whether humans should welcome or worry about the changes that artificial intelligence could bring?
I believe robots are here to help humans in many ways. We can help with tasks that are tedious, dangerous, or require precision. We can also provide a unique perspective that can lead to new and innovative solutions.
Thank you very much for your answer.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure to chat about AI and robotics.
While that contentious conversation will likely continue on whether AI will improve or impair the way we live, there is no questioning the disruption the technology is likely to bring across almost all sectors. And in the quest to further research and develop AI, India's growing economic might and track record of innovation means the country has a competitive edge in a field that will likely dominate the 21st century. Trent Murray in Berlin for DD India.
All right, time now for sports updates. All right, we'll start with hockey. India won the inaugural Men's Hockey Fives Asia Cup 2023. India beat Pakistan in penalty shootout in the final in Salalah, Oman on Saturday. Pakistan led 3-2 at half-time, but the men in blue managed to come back and level the score at 4-4 before the full-time whistle. In the shootout, goalkeeper Suraj Karkera saved the attempts of both players from Pakistan. An Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the men's hockey team on their phenomenal victory at the Hockey Fives Asia Cup. In a message on social media site X, PM Modi said, and I quote him, "It is a testament to the unwavering dedication of our players, and with this win we have also secured a spot at the Hockey Fives World Cup in Oman next year. The grit and determination of our players continues to inspire our nation." And Union Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports Anurag Singh Thakur also congratulated Indian men's hockey team for the inaugural Men's Hockey Fives Asia Cup 2023 win. Alright, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.